I'd love to welcome my friend Kashif Khan. Come on up.
Hey man.
Now, I started working with Cash years ago. I'm an advisor, an investor in the company, and you guys will notice a trend here. And there's someone in the room probably who's still going, everything that they're doing up there is about commercial stuff. Yep. Everyone up here has a reason for being here. They have a reason for being here because they care enough to spend all of their time and usually all of their money starting a company for something they believe in. And that's okay. And so I support the people who are doing the best work that I can find with my knowledge, connections, and things like this. So I'm really grateful that you could come out here from the woolly Canadian north.
Yeah, from a communist country.
Yeah.
But thank you, because it's because of you that companies like this do exist. We experience that ourselves. You create that, like, just to have a room like this, a congregation like this. Where in the world does this happen? Where so many people like-minded thinking like this even allow us to exist. So thank you guys.
Now, functional genomics is a space that a lot of people don't understand. I got my 23andMe data in the very early days. I'm like, this is great. I have the gene for less back hair from Neanderthals. I felt very empowered by this. So, what is functional genomics versus dysfunctional genomics? I don't know what to call that other stuff.
It's akin to medicine and functional medicine, right? Medicine is when you do what you want and you break yourself, call me and I'll fix you. Functional medicine is like, why did it happen? Let's dig deeper so that it doesn't have to happen. You can have that choice, right? So functional genomics isn't this gene means you have an 80% chance of Alzheimer's. It's 20% didn't get it. So what were they doing right? Right? The environment, nutrition, lifestyle choices aligned with that genetic profile that can either prevent disease, slow down aging, what we actually want, not just being told, good luck with your Alzheimer's, right? That's the difference.
So, you mean everyone's not average?
Well, everyone, so here's something really cool. Our research started with female hormone health. And the reason we did this is because that's what sucks the most in healthcare, right? Our healthcare system, which is, it's not healthy and it's not caring and it's not a system. It's horrible. The worst part of that is, yeah, and some people agree with that. The worst part we found is female hormone health. So when we started, you think about genetics, that it's an infinite number of profiles you may find. How are we going to deliver personalized health to all these potential profiles? By doing, one after one after one, all anecdotal N of 1 studies, we learned that women fit in one of 6 buckets. So now all of a sudden we're only trying to solve 6 problems. So as opposed to, going to the doctor being told fibromyalgia is what you're supposed to have, right? A 5-year-old girl can be tested and told, here's what the future looks like. Here's what environmental endocrine disruptors are going to cause you a problem. Here's what foods are going to cause you a problem. Here's what exercise is going to cause you a problem. And by the way, here's the things that are beneficial. If you were to do these things, you're not going to have all those problems that everyone's complaining about. So that wasn't possible until we studied people, right? Geneticists study genes, and they report on what publications say and say there's a propensity to some disease, and here you go. When we brought the people into it, that's when we understood here's the habits that actually keep you healthy.
This is profound stuff. If you were born with an instruction manual, like an owner's manual, that said, here's the type of fuel to use, here's your maintenance procedures, here's the part of the car, the windshield wiper blades on you are really weak, you're gonna have to change those every 2 weeks, well then you know. Otherwise, I just could never see very well because no one told you to change them. So we're, by design, not able to see inside our operating system without some very limited things. So you could say it's just a crapshoot. You could say everyone's the same and let's do the average thing and you'll help half of people, at least some, but you'll harm the other half probably. So this idea of saying let's figure out what's best for you, so you flip the switches you have in the directions you want, but you don't try to flip a switch you don't have.
Right? Not everyone has the same risks and problems, right?
Right.
So take me, for example. So Dr. Gundry was talking about the gut. There's a gene called GSTM1, which is highly protective of the gut. So your ability to prevent and detoxify whatever's aligned and coming with your food from entering your bloodstream. I don't have the gene. So it's not even what version or what SNP or what variant. I literally am missing a page from my genetic code, right? So no wonder I had eczema and all these inflammatory issues until I learned that, because I was eating what everybody else was eating, right? And why didn't they have that problem? Because they don't have that deletion of the gene.
Mm-hmm.
The reverse is also true. Danica, who's in the audience somewhere, we were talking about her genome. She actually has an extra copy, which means she's doing such a good job of this process that it causes an autoimmune response, right?
Wow.
So now you can be very precise on, and first of all, to clear the air, I agree with Naveen said. Naveen was on stage yesterday and says genetics sucks.
I was going to ask you about, like, if you and
Yeah.
Naveen were in a cage match.
Yeah, so I agree with the experience we've had until now, right? Again, that healthcare system designed by acute care, break your arm and I'll fix you, that same toolkit is passed on to chronic care, right? And so what we were looking for in the genome was, how do I find a gene that solves a problem so I can make a drug?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the dollars that were powering research were looking for, right? Versus, how do I find where I personally not doing well, what I actually need? When somebody hands on their genetics over to somebody, they're like, mine it and tell me everything. Tell me what I need, not what everybody needs. And so that's where we got to, which is that a single gene doesn't have a single purpose or a single outcome. For the same person, it could mean that I don't detox, and for another person, it means that I do it so much that it makes me sick,
Wow.
right?
So you just don't know, and functional genomics is going to remove a bunch of things you might do that wouldn't serve you, and say these are the things that are most likely to work given your settings,
Sure.
the way you came configured.
Yep.
And there are many things you can reconfigure, right? But some things, if you don't have that gene, you can't turn it on.
Yep.
So let's talk about sleep. What do you know about sleep?
So this was actually,
fascinating me.
this was unintentional. We, in our early stage research, so nobody believes there's a sleep gene or there's the genetics of sleep to even look at.
Yeah.
But people kept saying, I feel I'm sleeping better. Like, I can't believe how well I'm sleeping. That was the outcome, which we weren't planning for. So we started to look at that. So again, we're patient-facing, so we're talking to thousands of people, literally thousands, and interviewing them to now understand a gene that has a function that we believe also does something else. And again, I'll use myself as the guinea pig. So I have zero problem falling asleep, because my circadian rhythm, there's many circadian rhythms. The sleep-wake cycle is the most commonly spoken of circadian rhythm, is really powerful. So blue light, all these things that we have to worry about, yes, there's a problem, but the delta value for me is like a 10% problem, not an 80% problem, right? I can't stay asleep. That's my challenge. I fixed it, because now I know why. So what's going on there? My clock works well. There's literally a gene called clock, which regulates your circadian rhythm. There's a gene called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which Jim spoke of yesterday, which also supports circadian rhythm. Once you get into that second half of your sleep, where at some point you're supposed to wake up, your brain knows that, your body knows that. Typically what happens, just like melatonin triggers sleep, serotonin triggers wake up. So at some point, sunlight pierces through your eyelids, you see this slight amber glow, and that's the point where your body starts to bind the serotonin and get ready to actually be awake and active. If your serotonin receptors are dysregulated, like mine are, your body doesn't know how to prioritize stimulus, your brain, in fact. And so any stimulus at that time, that second half, hubby's pulling on the blanket, it's too hot, it's too cold, there's a weird smell, there's a weird noise. Some people resonate where, I have no problem falling asleep. That first half, I don't even know what happened. It was so deep and high quality. Mm-hmm. But then that second half, I'm in and out. I'm dreaming and I'm awake. I'm dreaming and I'm awake. That's what's going on there.
And that's genetic?
Yeah, the serotonin receptor is driven by the 5-HTT-LPR gene, right? That's why the serotonin supplement, we call it 5-HTP, commonly known, mm-hmm. right? It regulates that pathway. So you can have truly like a shortened receptor, which your genes can predict, which means you just can't bind it well enough. And then all of a sudden your body's trying to respond to all the stimulus and it just can't handle it properly. So we speak of it in depression, mood regulation, but it does so many more things. It also makes you lean on food as a coping mechanism. It makes you having high functioning anxiety, drive towards reward. So it does many, many things, and that's what we mean by functional. A gene doesn't have a meaning. right? A gene drives biological processes. You then have to study people to say, well, what's the outcome of that process, right?
So I've for many years now, I think after Michael Bruce came out with his, there's sleep chronotypes, said there has to be a way to figure out the genes for these. I know that I'm wired to be a night owl, and I figured out how to change that with the stuff that was in Fast This Way around circadian timing and all. So I go to bed earlier now than I have throughout my entire life, but I know that I'm wired to be the guy who stays up late at night, just to, I don't know, do stuff and burn things in the fire. I don't know, whatever cavemen did back then. Probably make sure no other cavemen are trying to eat us.
Yeah.
But is that genetic? I mean, can you point that out? I didn't see that in my DNA company results, but it feels like you might get enough data to know that.
So we don't report on chronotype, but we can report on things that drive that behavior. For example, again, going back to BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, the people that are off there tend to experience what we call like a shell shock, trauma, from little things that happen during the day, which means their brain starts spinning at night for the things that are not resolved. So picture that person lying on their pillow. They just can't fall asleep. They're thinking, I shouldn't have said it that way. Why did I show up at that time?
I thought they were just doing that because they were weak.
So the weakness, the weakness, as you call it, is also the strength, by the way. And this is the amazing thing about mood and behavior. The genes that drive the neurochemicals that drive your behavior, if you're in the right context, it's your superpower. If you're in the wrong context, it's a heavy, heavy burden.
Okay.
Right? So somebody who is driven for giving things a lot of meaning, bad BDNF, I spin, I have shell shock, right? That's a subject matter expert. They should be sitting in a lab doing some science research and diving deep. Take them away from that and make them a cashier, they're dysfunctional, right? So if you can understand your map, which is, we only understand this because we were able to sit and talk to 7,000 people with their genome in hand and then studying their behaviors. And we understood, here's why they act, and by the way, the reason you have depression is because you're wired for reward. You should be an entrepreneur. And you can't experience reward, and so now you're depressed. You need to program it into your life.
So you can genetically diagnose an allergy to cubicles?
Yes.
This is pretty important, guys. You getting this?
Yeah. And by the way, in this room, you're going to have the extremes, right? Anyone that decided to show up here that thinks like this, you're already, there's a lot of people there in the middle, right? But if you're this proactive, you're either highly reward-seeking or the exact opposite, right? And same with most neurochemicals that drive this type of proactive behavior. And so you are that person that context is wrong, it is a disaster. Context is right, you are thriving. So understanding what you're wired for is how you thrive, right? I used to suffer from depression. I had a bout with addiction, but now I'm highly entrepreneurial because I now know what I'm wired for.
So if you think about the definition of biohacking, change the environment around you and inside you so you have control of your biology. If you know the type of environment to put around you so that you can thrive, that might be an important ingredient for biohacking, right?
For sure.
Now, I look at this as being compatible with all of the stuff that Naveen and Viome are doing. Because here we're saying, what switches do you have and how do you set up the environment so the switches work? And with Viome, they're saying, are your switches working and what else is going on that isn't genetic?
Yeah.
Right? And I feel like sometime 10 years from now, we're going to be sucking in all kinds of data, including the DNA company, including all of the gut bacteria stuff, and including stuff from all of your biomonitors and probably EEG things as well, and being able to put it into an algorithm that's like, maybe you should eat less hot dogs. But it's going to be a little more complex than that. And this is the kind of career that's likely to make you happy. My fear is that, well, what if it just becomes one of those dark dystopian movies like Gattaca, where this is what's going to make you happy, this is what's best, and therefore you'll do it. And fundamentally, telling people they have to do something that makes them happy makes it not fun. Right? So freedom also equals happiness. What do you do to protect people's genetic data?
So that's a big problem. I would say assume that if you're buying a genetic test, your data is being sold.
Yeah.
The genetic business sucks because your DNA doesn't change. So I test you once and we're done. Right? That was the problem. So the people funding, just look at the actual economics. 23andMe's big funding round in 2019, $300 million was from Glaxo. Why does Glaxo care to invest that much into a product that doesn't make any money? They sell it at cost, right? Because on the back end, they can now design the test to collect the exact data they want to then go build those needle in the haystack drugs. Like, let's turn a switch on or off, right?
Yep, and that's actually beneficial, right? So if you have that switch, then there's one drug out there that's going to turn off this thing that makes you miserable,
Yep.
and we don't know how to do it environmentally. Well, that's okay. I think that's a win-win, but I do worry about legislators getting involved in all of
Yeah.
that and protecting it.
Yeah, so on the back end, you solve a problem well, but you're solving a problem that's 1%, 2%, 3% of healthcare. We know, CDC says this, 90% of our healthcare budget is chronic disease. So genetics, which can inform so much, was taken away from that bucket and put into a very tiny bucket that drives great solutions for very small problems, right? So by not participating in those types of products and focusing on what doesn't sell, what mines your data and gives you the insight, as opposed to just giving you a result. You need insights. What do I do? Right? What's the recommendation? That's power, not, you got your ears connected to your head or not. I can see that in a mirror.
Okay,
Right?
got it.
Yeah.
I'm going to propose something that's going to piss you off right now, and I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I am a hacker.
Sure.
Okay. Guys, if you're worried about genetic privacy, find a few other people's DNA and submit it under your name. Dirty data screws with their people's heads very much. Did I just completely make you mad?
You just sold me 5 tests per customer, so that's.
You could even try your dog's DNA just to see what you get back. Not with them, though. Don't waste it on that. Do that for 23andMe. But I do know very clearly, like dirty data is the way you fix a lot of tyranny, right? You just, oh yeah, you wanted some stuff and they can't figure it out because their systems are really still pretty dumb. But you know which one is you, and you know which one is whoever the heck else you found.
Yeah, we absolutely do not sell. Our
That's
test
important.
is actually not designed for that purpose.
That's something I really like. That's something we talked about before
Yeah.
I became an
So
investor
even if I go
advisor.
out there and try, they don't want it. It's not the right data.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're not with 23andMe and the similar ones, Ancestry. That stuff is on the market with a DNA company, and it's not. And the analysis that I got from you guys is unlike anything I've seen from anywhere else. It's really, really helpful pinpointing of the 4 killers from superhuman things most likely to take you out. Which one is the one that's most likely to take me out versus an average population? And when I was talking with your team, they said, oh, look, Dave, you have pretty much like a West African's heart attack risk. So cardiovascular is the one where I have a substantially higher risk than you would expect if you just took a look at me in the doctor's office. It turns out people from the west side of Africa have a certain genetic profile that means that they have a higher chance of cardiovascular events. It's fascinating to understand these things and to know what your risk is versus what someone else's risk is. So you don't have to say, oh no, I can't do this because it increases my risk. It actually doesn't increase your risk because no one in here is average. Right? This also is very liberating when you get this, because when you get the data that shows you you're not average, you realize every statistic you see in the news, even every statistic you see on PubMed, it actually isn't you. It doesn't apply to you. Right, so you are unique, and that means, wow, if that increases Alzheimer's risk a lot, that behavior does, well, is that actually true for me? And you don't know. It's probably true for you, but if you have a DNA company test kit, you have more data to know if it's real. And then that also means every time you just have no information, it's not a death sentence. Oh my God, 50% of people who are in a room with someone who might have something could get it. You say, well, yeah, but not me because I have a functioning immune system. And so your risk is probably 5%. But having that is actually something that creates peace. In order to do that, you have to have the energy to be dangerous, to perceive reality. And part of reality is that nothing you see applies to you specifically unless you have the data, because you're just not average. You're you. And I found huge knowledge here, stuff that some people would worry about. I just don't need to worry about because that's in my genes. Those are not things that are very likely to happen. So if I'm going to spend $1 biohacking, I don't spend it on that. I spend it on things that matter. So for me, this was highly directional. But let's give something away. What do you think?
Why not? Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just give away a DNA company test, because as valuable as that is, I think we should give away something worth like about $5,000 on your dime, just to be really clear.
I'll just, deduct it from the booth cost.
All right, let me, they put it up for us, cool. So you actually have a precision life extension program. Thank you.
Yeah, so as we got out there testing, so by the way, what we truly do is research. We're a research company. What you see selling tests and reports is because people asked for it, right?
Yeah.
And so on the back end of that, people started asking, well, how do I work with a coach? How do I learn more? How do I dive deeper? And the real question was, how do I take all this and add a decade to my life? You know, there's so much data here, sleep, cardiovascular, immunity, cellular health, all of that, right? And so we built this program. It started with people like yourself. We worked with professional athletes, CEOs. We were literally on Hollywood sets with actors as they were on film, you know, putting pop-up supplements into their mouth. Like literally, that's what we were doing. And then we built it so that we could actually scale it out and offer it to everybody. So the program essentially takes your DNA, which comes through the report, and our scientists will manually dive deep and look for the things that you don't even know are wrong yet. Right? The things that you're concerned about, great, we'll deal with those, but also the things that may be coming in the future that you don't yet know, regardless of how healthy you are. Slowing down aging, preventing disease, being optimal today. Right?
Okay.
That's kind of what it offers with that deep dive. And then there's health coaches that can guide you through if you wanted to implement things, you know, what do I actually do with all this information? So that's what it is, a transformed product. It's a $5,000 product that we sell, and somebody's getting one today. Yeah.
Thank you. So 4 months, deep dive. This is life extension the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
All right. And the team run the random generator to pick some names. Okay. Read, and this is in case they're not here. Those give me a bunch of names. It's usually in the first 3 or 4. So start there and go over and just like you're reading.
So Aiki Kawamitsu, are you in the room? I think I'm saying it right.
What? No?
No?
Dope.
Brian Kingsley. There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Thank you, Kashif.
Yeah.
Unless you want to give away another one, you could.
Should we do it?
You want to?
Why not? Let's go crazy. Let's go crazy.
All right.
Let's go crazy.
Guys,
Why not?
this was not planned. I just asked him and he said yes. You never know what will happen when you ask. It's okay to hear no. So thank you. Really?
Yeah, why not? Let's do
Killer.
it, man.
All right, read another name from that
Okay.
list. Just like you're reading across. Go to
Amy Net.
Oh. Poor Amy.
Natasha Cole. There we go. Look at that.
All right.
All right.
Gosh, thank you.
And you know, the other thing we'll do is for Brian and Natasha, I'll personally jump in and do their review for them.
Oh, wow. All right. Very generous. Thank you, Kash.
Thank you,
Guys, functional genomics is different than knowing your back hair levels. They're both kind of fun, but one is more useful. This is the most impressive DNA company I've come across so far. So I really want you to consider that as part of guiding your biohacking spend. This is a roadmap that's different than anything else. And thanks for all the innovation and work you've done. I've watched it evolve over the years. So
thank you.
Cool.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right.
Yeah.